Are you ready, Jimmy, for this?
All right, let's do it.
Are we all here?
Yep, we're all here.
We got
Okay.
everybody. This
Come
is
on
it.
in. Let's go in
Oh,
here.
good morning. Okay.
Let's go in here and have a chair.
Now, can you hold on to this one?
I sure can.
Thank you.
I got it.
I want to get this thing taped on him so I can. Oh, shit.
Don't fall.
No. I got it. There you go.
Are you afraid they're going to text you already?
Wow, look at this place. Beautiful.
It is absolutely gorgeous.
It is. It's beautiful.
It's a beautiful.
Oh, they had a
Yeah.
radio system. That's
You
Huh?
sit down right there.
Okay, sir. Well, can I?
You notice which chair I sat in.
Okay.
That's just like it. There's a reason I sat in this chair. Once you sit in that, you'll understand why.
Well, I can't sit. I can't get up. That's the problem. I can't. You know, it's too low for me.
Okay.
But I would. I would normally would.
Okay.
Can I put this right here by you?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Here since yes.
This is beautiful.
All right. Now, am I correct in assuming that nobody's been here before?
Yes,
None
sir.
of us.
Okay. Welcome to Randolph County Infirmary / Asylum. Now, when you hear the word asylum, what's the first thing you think of?
People.
Mental
Insane.
case,
Right,
right? Why? If somebody's seeking asylum, what are they looking for?
People that ain't all there.
No. If they're seeking asylum, they're looking for safety.
Safety. Yep.
Like if somebody defects from Russia to the United States and tries to seek asylum in the United States, he's after safety. It's got nothing to do with mental,
You got it right.
but it does.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, Randolph County Infirmary is the state of Indiana's first attempt at welfare. All right. The first building was built here in 1851. First building was built here in 1851. And it wasn't just here, it was every county in Indiana. The governor of Indiana had decided that he was going to help poor folks. In other words, if you didn't have anything, if you were living under a bridge or in a camp out in the woods or something like that, he's going to put a roof over your head. That's what he's going to do. And so the governor of Indiana mandated every county, all 98 counties in Indiana, to build one of these buildings. This was not a mental asylum. Not even close. All right. It was a poor farm. And every county had to build one of these. And so at one time, there were 98 of these in Indiana. There's still a few still functioning today. This one naturally isn't. You know, at one time, it's usually averaged about 45 people here when it was in function. Now, it started in 1851. The first one burnt down in 1857. The second one fell down in 1897. And the third one, which is this one, is still here. All right. Now, what the deal is, if you have a physical handicap, you would qualify, definitely. If you've got a physical handicap or a mental handicap where you can't work to support yourself, you qualify to live here for nothing. You've got a room down the hall, you get walls around you, you get a roof over your head, and they're going to feed you 3 meals a day, and it's not going to cost you a dime. No, it's not going to cost anybody a dime. All right, it's free. In other words, it's in the county's taxes. The state mandated it, but the state hadn't got a dime in it. The mandate means I tell you to do it. Okay, so the state told every county to build one of these. So in other words, the county has to pay for this. And I was on the county council for 4 years, and this was part of our budget. And it didn't make nothing. It was a big money loser. That's mainly why it's closed today. Okay, when the first one was built in 1851, It was a wooden building. All right, it was more or less like a 2-story log cabin. And there was a total of 19 people that lived here, which included the caretaker, his wife, and their son. All right, it was built on the same limestone foundation that's holding this building up. By 1857, okay, what's going to be the heat source in 1851?
Wood.
Firewood.
Firewood, big old fireplace, right? And the cook stove is going to be a wood-fired cook stove. And actually, you're not going to have no lights. You're going to have oil lamps and candles. Everything I mentioned is fire, right? And it's a wood building, and you got people here that's handicapped. It's a recipe for disaster. So by 1857, they accidentally burned it down. And there was absolutely no one hurt or killed in the fire.
Wow.
Now you'll read in a few of the books that's been written in the place that everybody in the building was killed. And that's just not true. It was people that owned the building that was trying to make more out of it than what it really is. So there aren't no, so if you run into a ghost tonight, it's not a crispy critter. Okay. I was a firefighter for 20 years. I know all the terms. Okay. So there are no crispy critters. So don't be thinking you're going to run into any because you're not.
Right.
There was a total. Okay, but the thing of it is now they burnt the place down. And these people just gave up what little bit of security they had to live here, and then they accidentally burn it down. So they got to have another place to live quickly. And like I said, the county's got to pay for it. So the county's got to get busy and build another building quickly. Well, they looked at that lot that you guys pulled into the parking place and you noticed your vehicles that way.
Right.
You noticed that big lot right there in front of you, how flat level that was and everything. They said, that's where we're going to build the next building. We're going to build it out of brick. Randolph County, Indiana is notorious for the amount of clay that's in the ground. You know what a 4-inch diameter field tile is? 4-inch diameter. And they're pink or orange or whatever. You've seen farmers dig them up in their fields accidentally.
Yeah, I don't, myself, I don't, go on.
Okay, anyhow, they were invented in Randolph County, Indiana by the Martin family. Now, I know Martin's my last name, but it wasn't my family. I haven't got a dime. And I'm sure that they didn't left some money. But they were invented here in Randolph County by the Martin family, and they were sent all over the United States to help farmers clear up the wetlands in their fields, the swamps and stuff in
There's a lot
their.
of them in Michigan.
And so, if they can build field tile, they can build brick. They got the same stuff. And so they decided they're going to build that next building over there, and they're going to use brick, and they're going to make it themselves. They're not going to depend on somebody else to make them. They're going to do it themselves. So the first thing they got to build for that building is a kiln. All right. Now they didn't have any of the fancy gauges in there to tell them what the temperature of the bricks were or nothing. They had to eyeball them by color. They turn different colors, you know. All right. To get a brick hot enough that you can use it to build with and it glazes and makes it waterproof, you have to get it to 1600 degrees. Otherwise, it's just like going out in the field and getting a couple dirt clods and trying to build something out of a dirt clod. What happens when it rains? It melts, right?
It disintegrates.
Well, that happened over there. They're building a building over there. They get it about half done, and a big old rainstorm come up, and lo and behold, about half of it melted. And it's a government job. It's going to be cheap and quick, okay? Like any other government job, it's cheap and quick, okay? Now, I can say that if I want to, because I was on the county council for 4 years. I was on the city council for 4 years. I've served 8 years in government duty. So I don't, and plus 14 years in the Army. So I can badmouth the government if I want to. I've earned
5
mine.
years in the Army.
I've earned mine. You too. And so, like I said, it'd be just like taking a dirt clod. Okay, about half of that melted down there. Now, what they need to do, literally, is tear it down and start over. Government project, we ain't going to. We were doing so good at that, getting it done so quickly. We're going to continue to build it just like we did, and we'll just repair it as we need to. Now, doesn't that sound like typical government move?
It does.
It does.
Yes. Yeah. It does.
So they did. They went ahead building it just like they used to, like they were, and they got it done. All right. And by 1897, it's done. All right. But they've had a lot of repair to do with it, and for a lot of years. There have been several hundred people go through that building. All right. But it's not a good place to live. By 1897, the west side, or the weather side of the building, was where the ladies lived. Well, they were having to give up their bedclothes, their quilts, their blankets, pillows, and everything else to stuff in the walls around the windows where the bricks would give out around the windows, and the windows were falling in or falling out. So whatever it was doing outside, it was doing it inside too. And so it was not a good place to live. In that second building, it was terrible. And people complained badly. The people that was living there complained badly. They didn't complain like you and I would have back in our day. We'd have burnt their damn courthouse down. We'd have got their attention.
You're right about that,
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about
I do.
as well as I do.
You record that for your daughter?
Huh?
Not bad.
You got to bring the house down.
Believe me, we would have burnt the car down. We'd have got their attention in our day. I guarantee we would have. Somebody finally got the county commissioner's attention though, and county commissioners come out, looked at the building over there, and oh my God, we can't fix that. We might as well just tear it down and start over. So one of the county commissioners wasn't into it for the glory of being a county commissioner. He actually had some brains. Not very many county commissioners got any brains. They're into it for the glory and the big cigars. You know well as I do. That's what they're into it for.
Yeah.
And so one of them walked over here and walked around this limestone foundation, which was left over from the original burned out building in 1851. He said, come over here, guys, come look at this. And they came over and they looked around, walked around the inside of the foundation, and it was in good shape. They said, this foundation just needs shored up in a couple places. Why don't we hire a couple engineers? Let's have them design us another building. Let's build another one in brick. And let's do it right this time. Third time's a charm. So let's do it right this time. And so they're going to build it one brick at a time and do it right this time. And you're sitting in it. That's this building. When this building was done, it was finished in 1899. It started in 1898, January of 1898. By December of 1899, it's done. And then when it was done, they had a 60,000 square foot Romanesque Revivals type architectural building built, done. Now, do you know what Romanesque Revival architectural is? I didn't.
I don't, but it sounds good to me.
Well, I didn't have any idea. See them columns right there holding that doorway up?
Yeah.
That's Romanesque Revival. And if you go outside and look around the outside at all the windows, you'll see arches in bricks built above all the windows and doors. That's Romanesque revival. See this round part right here? That's called a witch's hat tower. That's Romanesque revival. Do you know what that's used for?
No, I don't.
Why it's called a witch's hat tower? The roof on it is shaped like a witch's hat.
That's why it's like that.
Yeah.
Ah.
All right, now, let me ask you this. What earthly good does a witch's hat tower do in the living conditions of a building?
The only I can imagine just gets rid of the water, the moisture fast.
That's not right.
No.
Temperature
No.
regulation?
Huh?
Temperature regulation?
No.
No?
Is that view?
No, let me give you a hint. Now, it'd be a great
About up there, dude.
It'd be a great place to get up every morning and get yourself a cup of coffee and read the Detroit paper sitting right there in the sunlight so you can see it. But that's not what it's for. I'm sure it was used for that. But
Right.
okay, you see that bench around on the inside of it?
Yep.
That ought to give you a hint. Now let me tell you this.
All made for plants, maybe?
No, but you're close.
Okay.
Okay, if you live here, you haven't got a dime. You're broke. You haven't got a penny.
Iced tea, sun tea.
All right, if you live here, this is probably going to be the last place that you're ever going to live because you can live here for nothing. That means you're going to die here.
Okay.
Oh boy.
And if you die here, you still haven't got a dime.
You guys get it now? That's where the casket would be.
You still haven't got a dime. So you haven't got any money for a funeral. And you probably don't have any family because if you did have,
Oh, wow.
you'd already be living with a family.
I think I'm not sitting over there.
All right, so there is a dead gurney on the first floor and a dead gurney on the second floor. If you die here, they're going to wheel that gurney into your room, crank it up level with the bed, and somebody's going to have a pine box already built on that gurney, and they're going to roll you off into that pine box. Then they're going to bring you down here.
And that's the viewing spot?
Now you see where that sewing machine sits behind this chair? You probably can't see it.
I can see it.
But that wouldn't be there. There'd be a wooden table sitting right there. They're going to wheel you in there in that casket, in that wooden casket, pick you up and set you, casket and you, on that wooden table. Then they're going to get 4 to 6 people to sit on that bench right there, volunteers, to sit on that bench and watch you in that casket for 24 hours to make sure you don't wake up. And that's why funerals are called wakes.
Wow.
You just learned something, didn't you?
I sure did. I sure did.
Okay. Knowledge is power.
See, that's before embalming.
Yep.
If they embalm you, you're dead. But before embalming, they couldn't tell whether you were really dead or not.
You've heard stories of people waking up that are dead.
They've exhumed coffins where there were scratch marks on them.
Yeah,
Back in the
okay.
day,
Have you heard the
obviously.
story about Saved by the Bell or a dead ringer?
Yep,
Fine.
dead
Yeah.
ringers.
Okay,
Yep.
dead ringers or
No.
Saved by the Bell or the scratch marks in the lid with
Yep.
fingernails.
Yep,
People used to be terrified of being buried alive.
I would be too.
Diabetes has a thing in that called a diabetic coma, where it slows your heart rate down to 1 to 2 beats per minute.
Wow, that's slow.
Let's say that you're one of the volunteers sitting on that table, on that bench, and you've been sitting there for about 6 hours, and you know you still got 18 more hours to go. Okay, you sit on that old hard table. Your butt's sore, your back hurts, you're hungry. I gotta pee. I'm cold. I don't want to be here no more. You're not gonna catch 1 to 2 heartbeats in that person's chest in that box. You're not gonna see it. Next morning, the mortician walks in. Well, is he dead? Yep. And they bury you alive. And you come out of that diabetic coma when you're 6 feet under in a pine box. Now that would be terrifying, wouldn't it?
Horrible death.
Absolutely.
You know, people used to put a clear top on top of their casket and not bury it all. so that you can look down in there from the ground, actually see if we're still alive or not.
Yeah.
They used to be terrified about being
I know in England they did, but they used to have bells.
bells.
Yeah, when a person like was
Yeah.
alive, they could ring the bell and people could hear it on top.
They had them here too.
Do they do?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
They
I knew it
did.
was in England.
I always figured it'd be my job to have the job of sitting in a cemetery all night long. I can just see me sitting there in the summertime, probably about halfway through a 12-pack, laying against a building or something like that, and all of a sudden I'd hear ding, 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 ding. Where's that? Where is that? Okay, there you are. I see you. I haven't got a backhoe. I got a shovel. Hang in there. I'll probably go get another 12-pack, go set back down, because I'm not gonna get him out of there, you know.
Day shift will be here in a little bit.
You know I'm not gonna get him out of the ground. It's not gonna happen. I'm not gonna get him out of the ground quick enough.
Doesn't tell if you run the bell.
All right. So they got this building built, and it took them 2 years to build it, and it was done in 1899. Now there has been 1,498 people go through this building since 1899 to 2006 when this building closed. This building closed in 2006. That counts caretakers and caretakers' family. All right. There had been a little over 400 deaths in this building. So there are spirits here. Now the spirits that are here, they're just people like me and him and you and everybody else that's never had a break in our life. They're kind old people, most of them. And so don't be treating them bad. Okay? Don't be treating them bad. Now, there are cameras around all over the place. You can see one right up there on them pipes. There's one in there. There's one in the kitchen. There's one trained on the license plates of your cars out there. There's one in the doll room down the hall. Huh?
Oh, those are her doll room. Yes. Doll room. Yes, yes.
It's Doris.
You can't touch them.
It's the
Don't touch
room.
them. And you, not a problem.
It's the room that Doris Addington died in. She loved dolls.
Oh, you're going in there for sure.
That's one of the stories I'm going to tell you in just a little bit too.
If I have to, you have to. Give me your going.
Well, there's probably 100 dolls in there.
More the merrier.
I hope not.
I don't like them either. I'm honest with you.
Like those particular ones, or just dolls in general?
I just don't like dolls in general.
Okay, I don't like
Do
dolls.
their eyes move?
Huh?
Their eyes move in the dolls?
Doll
Make them
eyes.
like Chuck.
See?
Not one of them doesn't even have two eyes. One of them's got one glass eye, and another eye is a little miniature camera
There
watching-
you go, Jimmy. He's
watching you. So we've got dolls in there that are worth a fortune,
Right.
and some of them's been carried off. And so we got a camera in one of them, and so now we'll see who carries it off. Besides that, we just recorded your license plate numbers, and we got them too, and so we'll know where it's at.
No worries.
No worries.
No dolls come with us.
Well, let me tell you something about the doll room. You see this piece of conduit coming down right here? Well, there's a piece of conduit coming down on a wall like that right behind you in that room to a plug-in. All right. I don't like dolls either. All right. I found out that most men, not women, but most men are terrified of dolls. You don't want to admit it, but you are. You just don't like them. They give you the creeps to make your skin crawl.
I agree.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Especially
All right. And so I had guys in the 5 years that I've been doing it wouldn't even go into that room because they just can't stand dolls. So I added a little bit of humor to that room. That conduit coming down on the wall in that room, I took 3 Barbie dolls and I wrapped all 3 of the Barbie dolls around that conduit like pole dancers. and I stuffed dollar bills in the appropriate place and left them there. Well, my Barbie dolls have made over $95 just this year by themselves. And I'm not taking them down.
That's nice. Good.
Okay, now there ain't a man in the world that doesn't know what a pole dancer is.
Right.
And so you walk in and you see that, and it's funny, and you're not afraid of the dolls anymore.
Right. Brings up the fear.
Until they start moving them damn
We'll
bills.
just say, Ted was here.
He's got a rig when they were in there, and then they start moving. They drop their dollar bills.
Well, you would see.
Well, somebody's worse than I am. Somebody folded up a $20 bill and stuffed it once. I said, "You're kidding me." Well, that money that the Barbie dolls collect is end of the year beer money. Is what it amounts
Put
to.
my donation in there.
Thank you, lady.
You're doing a good job, girls. Keep it up. So, all right, now I'm going to tell you a story about Ida Gunkel. Now, you've all heard the story about Ida Gunkel.
Have you two heard the story
Yeah,
about
I watched
Ida?
them last night.
I want to hear it though. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
we want to hear it.
All right, in 1938, Ida Gunkel was brought here by her son and left here. All right. 1938, keep in mind, 1930. She has a bad, very severe mental handicap. Very severe. All right. 8 years before she brought here and left by her son, her husband died. Do you know what he died from?
Consumption?
Syphilis.
Syphilis. Oh boy.
There's no cure for
There's no,
syphilis.
not back then there wasn't.
There is now. There's a $5 shot today that'll take care of it. But back in that day, there was no cure for
And
it.
it basically ate your brain.
And it would eat your brain, is what it would do. It would eat your brain.
Yeah.
And it's a long, very terrible death, is what it is, drawn out. 2 years before she's left here, her oldest and favorite daughter got sick and passed away. Well, that set poor Ida over the top. That really messed her up. So her son took her home with him. He just lived down the road here, about 7 miles, at Lynn.
Dude, turn the ringer off, dude.
I got it, sorry. Stupid family members. You said. I don't have one else.
I can't see.
Jason's got one else.
I know I yelled at him about it all the time.
There.
He just lived down the road down there at Lynn, about 7 miles away. He took her home with him, trying to make her last bit of her life as pleasant as possible, you know. Well, he got her home, and he couldn't handle her. She was a wreck. She was really a wreck. Okay. So he brought her back here. He was familiar with the place, knowing that there were mentally problem people here, and he thought that he could surely get some help for her here. Well, this building, this facility, has never, ever, since 1851 to 2006, ever had an on-staff, on-site doctor or nurse or psychiatrist or anything. In other words, if you live here, you're on your own.
Right.
And if you get sick, there's a contract physician that they would vote on and hire every year to come out once a month to make his rounds. And so if you're going to get sick, you want to make sure it's going to be when the doctor's going to be here. Otherwise, you're on your own. In other words, you could fall over out there in the hallway with a heart attack or a stroke or something. Let's say it's before there's cars or before telephones. That means they got to hook the horse and buggy up, go 2 miles to Winchester, get to Doc. He's got to hook his horse and buggy up and get back out here. And by the time he gets here, it's probably too late for you. This place never had any medical staff. Never did ever have a medical staff. I'll tell you what they did have once. I told you all I was married once. My wife was a nurse. She was a candy striper at Winchester Hospital back when she was young, real young. And every once in a while they'd bring the candy stripers out here and let them walk up and down the hall to try to help these people, if they could, you know. In other words, you're being helped by somebody that ain't got really no idea what they're
I
doing.
have no clue.
Right.
They ain't got a clue. They can clean bedpans and that's about it. Yeah. And so that was it. Okay, so the old boy down the road didn't realize that there was no medical staff here. He thought that there was. So he brought his mama here, thinking he can get help for her here. Well, the people that was the caretakers here done the worst thing that they could possibly have done. They took her. They should have had her committed to a sanitarium, because there ain't nothing they can do for her. They took her, and she had a room right down here on the first floor on the ladies' side. And most of the time, she'd just lay in there in her room and be quiet. And then she'd get to thinking about her lot in life. Let's face it, her husband cheated on her and wound up giving her a death sentence. Her favorite daughter died. Her son, she is convinced that he has brought her back here to dump her. She is convinced that he's just getting rid of her so he don't have to take care of her, which he very well may have. I have no idea. I can't prove different. And he very well may have just dumped her because there ain't nothing he can do with her. And so she gets to thinking about all that, then gets to crying and screaming and hollering and carrying on and getting up out of bed and running up and down the hallway out there. You've seen how long them halls are. Running up and down that hallway out there, ripping at her gown, messing down her legs, and then getting down like a dog and rolling in it. She's a wreck. She is literally a wreck. Okay. So one afternoon, the old caretaker walked in the front door when she's going through all that commotions out there in the hallway. And he sees it and hears it. And you know the first thing he thinks is what in the hell am I going to do with that? Well, you shouldn't have taken her to begin with. It's his own fault. All right, now, here's something. You all can look it up if you want to, because I had to. I didn't believe it. In the 1920s and 1930s, in the state of Indiana, and probably in other states, if you had a loved one like that in your family that was messed up that bad, the law would turn a blind eye if you'd happen to take them out behind the barn and pop them and put them out of their misery. Why is that terrible? You would a cat or a dog, if it got hit on the road and you knew it was going to die.
No, I wouldn't. Thanks to Lord. I wouldn't.
Well, personally, I think Kevorkian was right.
No.
I watched my wife die and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it.
I understand where you're coming from.
You know, I'm not sure I could have put her out of her misery either, though.
That's the whole thing, right?
Okay, just because the law says you can do it and you being able to do it, two different things by a far shot.
For sure.
Okay, well, the old caretaker seen her out here, and I'm sure that was the first thing that came to his mind. Well, I could take her out behind the barn, put her out of her misery and get rid of her. Well, can you? No, he couldn't. He couldn't. He couldn't. But he did remember that this building, it was in this building is built on the foundation of the very first building that was built that burnt down in 1851. And down in the basement, and it's still there, down in the basement, there's one room down there that has bars in the window. It's like a jail cell. Only room in the whole building that's got bars in the window. Well, guess what? guess where Ida's going? He's gonna put Ida down in that room.
Yeah. You okay, Jimmy?
Yeah, a lot better now.
Okay, okay.
You ain't heard nothing yet.
It gets better?
It gets better.
Oh,
Let's get started.
Unreal.
All right, he carries the bunk down in that room, and you guys are gonna see it. And I'm not gonna say a word about what happened in that room because she don't want me to, because she's still here. All right.
I think I already know about the pipe.
I can get it done from
Yeah,
bed.
okay.
All right. So
Deliver it to that address.
he's gonna put her down there in that room, carry the bed and all of her belongings down there, and he's gonna check on her every day. Now there is a door in that room, but he never closes and locks that door in the daytime. Not in the daytime. He does at night, but not in the daytime. Now why doesn't he in the daytime?
Let her get some exercise.
Oh. Every time she's got to go to the bathroom, do you want to go clean her up?
No.
Neither did he.
Yeah.
All right. Every time she eats a meal, do you want to spoon feed her, then clean her up? Neither did he. There are sane people here.
Yeah.
He figures if she would go do the basic functions with sane people, she would learn how.
Oh, okay.
Okay? And she would take care of herself, kinda. Well, we found out later that they never learn how to take care of themselves. They never learn how. And so it was a waste of time. But it was a good idea. It was good
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah.
Okay. And so, besides that, his wife comes down the hall. The caretaker's wife comes down the hall every night and pulls Ida's door shut and locks it. Then comes up here and goes to bed. Well, one night, Mrs. Thornburg, that was his wife, come down the hall and Ida hears her coming and he yells at her, Thornburg, hey, Thornburg, come here, come here. Miss Thornburg goes over there, walks in. Ida says, I need a broom. Miss Thornburg thinks, maybe she's going to sweep out her room. Maybe it will work. You know, that's what Miss Thornburg's thinking. So she walks around downstairs and finds this old-fashioned stick broom, like we still use today, an old one, and walks it over, hands it to Ida, turns around, pulls Ida's door shut, locks it, comes up here and goes to bed. All right, Miss Thornburg goes to bed. She gets up every morning at 5:30. Now, my first thing I do every morning when I get up is go to the bathroom, then put on the coffee pot, and then I feed my cats. Now, that can have different orders. It depends on how hungry the cats are. So, but that's what I do. Evidently, Ida did, or Miss Thornburg didn't. Miss Thornburg would always get up every morning. First thing she'd do would be to get that key, go downstairs, unlock Ida's room, open the door, and so Ida can get out and go to the bathroom, if she will, and maybe get herself something to eat, if she will. You know? So Mrs. Thornburg walked downstairs that next morning, unlocked the door, walked in, and she saw Ida. Ida is dead. She's hanging from that broom that Mrs. Thornburg got her. Now, she hung herself on a broom. Now, how'd she do that?
Can you excuse me for a minute? Somebody's going. Oh, what is calling? She's calling my phone. Something's going on. They don't usually call.
We'll find out.
Find out what's going on. Sorry, sir. It just. Yeah, no, we'll just. She's gonna call it. Something's going on. She don't usually call.
Sit down there.
Thank you.
Let's check her real quick.
Excuse me, sir.
That's okay.
That was probably her trying to get hold of me.
Yeah, we're all set. Can we call you back?
That's what's emergency.
We're doing it, but he's telling us he's doing this the story about the place. Okay,
Was it an
we're
emergency?
good.
It was an emergency?
No, just want to make sure you made it.
He's checking on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go on, sir. Go on.
All right. Ida is dead. She's hanging from that broom. Now, how did she hang herself on a broom? That's tough. Okay, in her room, there are two drain pipes running parallel to each other across the ceiling in her room. They're about that far apart. All right. Ida had got up and she's standing on her bunk with the broom. She can reach them pipes. She lays that broom perpendicular across them pipes. And while she's still standing on her bed, she pulls the sheet back and gets down to the mattress and rips about a 4-foot piece of that heavy mattress material off her mattress and ties it to the broom so that mattress material is hanging down between the pipes. And while she's still standing on her bed, she takes the loose end and ties it around her neck, and then she takes a step off her bunk. All right, the bunk itself was about as high as the arm of this chair to the floor. That is not near enough drop to break your neck. It's not. I've read her death certificate. She died of strangulation. When Mrs. Thornburg found her the next morning, Ida's feet was on the ground. And she was leaning forwards about a 45-degree angle against that knot around her neck. She choked herself to death. And so it was very unpleasant. Now, I tell people this story and then we'll go for a walk in a little bit. And one of the first things they'll ask Ida is, why didn't you just stand up? That's all she had to do. She didn't want to. She'll answer you if you've got a spirit box and a recorder. She'll answer you. She'll tell you, I had nothing left to live for.
I piss my pants.
Huh?
I will piss my pants.
You ever heard anybody say get out?
Well, you know, the only working bathroom is upstairs, right?
Is there anybody that said get out of this place? Like, so they say you can leave now? Because, you know, I listen really well.
Wouldn't have a dispensary, it depends, would you, Forrest?
No.
Watch yourself.
Well, now I'll tell you that down in Ida's room, and you're going to see her room. A lot of people, everybody that's seen her room, a lot of people brings her gifts. They feel sorry for her. Let's face it, she didn't ask for anything that happened to her.
I'm going to draw her a picture. I'll draw her.
You can.
Is it Walmart open 24 hours down there?
There's notepads and drawing stuff down there.
I don't know, go to Walmart and get her something real nice.
That would be nice, it would be nice just to give her something, yeah. So
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Some guy from Tennessee hand carved her a wooden black bear.
Wow.
About that big. Her moon sign is a black bear.
Okay.
And so he hand carved her a wooden black bear and left it down there. It's in her room. There's lots of things in her room down there. Let's face it, she didn't ask for anything that happened to her.
No, she didn't.
She's a victim of circumstances. She really was. And a lot of people leave her things and notes and everything else down there. So, but I'm done telling you about Ida. I'll probably say hi to her when we're down there. And I'm going to point out a light bulb that's screwed into a socket in the ceiling. It don't work. There's no electricity going to it. So if you got a K2 meter and your K2 meter springs red, it's not because of that light bulb. There ain't no electricity to it. It's Ida. Okay? She is there. She is there. For sure she's there. All right, now I'll tell you another story about Doris Addington, and then we'll go for a walk. Okay? Doris Addington, okay, in the 1920s, there was an old car pulled up out here on the highway, right at the end of our sidewalk. 3 young ladies got out of the vehicle, come up here and sat on the front steps. And they've all got their arms around each other and they're sniffing and crying and carrying on and everything else. Well, this is the Addington sisters. All 3 of the Addington sisters were born here. Their parents were residents here. not caretakers, residents. So all three of the sisters had lived here before. They knew the ropes here. They knew them pretty good. Okay. What had happened was the parents, back in the day when they all lived here, received mail one day, and what it was an inheritance check from somebody in their family had died and left them a bunch of money. And so the parents, the first thing they're going to do is buy their way out of here. They're going to get themselves out of here. And so they bought a farm on down the road back towards Lynn and a car. And they got their 3 daughters and they moved out. Well, now parents, they got a car now, and they had never had one before in their life. And so Saturday afternoon, they're driving down 27 here. They're going to Winchester to get groceries in that car. And I don't know, Dad was driving, I imagine. And he really didn't know what he was doing. And he was involved, they were involved in a head-on collision, either right out here or down the road a little farther. And Mom and Dad were both killed. The girls weren't with them, but Mom and Dad were both killed in that wreck. All right, the girls are smart enough to know that they're still young enough that they need parental guidance. And so they just lost their parents. They done the only thing they needed to do. They was going to put themselves up for adoption. All right, now there's a problem with that. The youngest girl, Doris Addington, is only 11 years old, and she has a speech defect. She can't talk plain. She stutters bad. And the older girls don't think anybody will adopt her. And let's face it, you walk into an orphan's home in the 1920s and you say hello to a little girl sitting over there against the wall, and it takes her all afternoon to answer you. You're not gonna adopt her. There's something wrong with her. And so the older girls were probably right. So the older girls thought that she'd be better off if she'd come back here. But they're not going to tell her that. And so a few Sundays down the road, one of the girls had legs long enough that she could reach the pedals in the car so she could drive a car. And one of the girls was driving the car, and they're out for a little Sunday drive, and they pull up right out here at the end of the sidewalk. And they get out, and they come up here and sit on the steps, and they're breaking the news to Doris, the baby girl. They're breaking the news to her that they're going to leave her here. And needless to say, Doris ain't happy about it. So as soon as they tell Doris that they're going to leave her here, the 2 older girls go get back in the car and drive away. And leave Doris, 11-year-old little girl, sitting out here on the front steps. Well, now, you can't tell me the caretaker wasn't involved in this, because his timing was impeccable. Because as soon as they drove away, the caretaker walks out the front door, wants to know what's wrong. And Doris tells him, well, my sisters just left me here. They dumped me. Well, now, Doris, you've been here before. You know how it is. You don't have to work to stay here, but you're expected to if you can. You know how it is. What is it would you like to do to help us here? Well, she was ready for him. He was thinking she'd be a good house cleaner. Let's face it, there's 60,000 square foot, and just his wife is supposed to be doing the cleaning. You know she got help, you know. And so Doris popped right up and said, I am 11 years old. I know how to cook, and that's what I'm going to do. She told him what she was going to do. He didn't tell her, she told him. Well, good for her. Good for her, you know. Well, I took him back, you know. And so he said, that's fine. He said, you go downstairs and get with Mary, who was a volunteer first cook down in the basement in the kitchen. And you learn the ropes off of Mary for a couple years, and it's all yours. So she did. The first day she went downstairs and started working with Mary. Well, Mary didn't live another 2 years. Mary got sick and died. And so before Doris was even 13 years old, Doris Addington, she was cooking 3 meals a day for everybody in this building before she was even 13 years old. You find me a kid that can do that today.
I can't.
I'm going to say, you show me that most adults can't do it either. And so she was a good cook. A word got out around Winchester that she was an excellent cook for large groups, large crowds. And so any social function in Winchester, such as Lions Club, Kiwanis, or churches or whatever, if they was having a big congregational feed, they would always call Doris and ask her if she would come in and help them and offer to pay her. Well, Doris never took a dime. But they also offered her a place to live besides here. And she always turned them down. You know what she'd tell them? She'd, nope, I got to get back out there. Somebody might have missed supper tonight and they may be hungry and I got to fix them something to eat. So she was dedicated to this place. She wasn't mad at nobody for leaving her here no more. She was thankful she had someplace to live by now. All right. And so every church group or Kiwanis or Lions Club found out that she loved dolls. Doris loved dolls. And so they would always buy her a doll and give it to her for her helping them. And needless to say, the doll would come back out here. And whatever room she stayed in, her dolls was in the room with her, including the room she died in 1984. She was 81 years old. You do the math. She started here when she was 11. That's 70 years she cooked in this place. All right. Her dolls were in the room that she died in. Doris caught H1N1, bird flu, and it killed her in 1984. She was 81 years old. Now, I personally knew Doris Addington because when she would fix for a social group or a church group or something around, she made a green bean casserole that was delicious, and I loved it. I like green bean casserole anyhow. The more onions on top, the better. And so it was good, you know. And so I asked her one day, you know, she sat and told me the story. And I asked her, did you spend the rest of your life getting even with your sisters? I would have. I'd have made life hell for my sister up in Chelsea. I know I would have, if she'd have done that to me. But she said, oh no, they just doing what they thought was best. They just thought they were doing what they thought was right. I guess her sisters used to stop and see her here all the time, you know. She didn't have any hard feelings towards her sisters at all. None at all.
Can I ask you something?
Sure.
When she was a cook, did she do like 7 days a week, 3 meals a day?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
It sure is, yeah. Wow.
Yes, it is a lot of work.
Bless her heart. Woo.
And so
Yeah, I can just-
when Chelsea was sitting in the hall and the spirit asked her, well, hello, dear, how are you this evening? That was Doris that was talking to
That's what
her.
I thought.
And when Chelsea was acting so stupid, that's why I wanted to reach through the TV and slap her. Because I knew who it was.
Yeah, that was not scary at all. Honestly, it wasn't.
It wasn't.
She made it into this big thing that...
It wasn't meant to be scary.
No, not at all.
Now, before she was sitting in the hall, I could see how she would think it was Ida. Because she was laying like 2 doors down from Ida's room. But it was, that's the second time they've been ran off.
Yeah.
they do a lot of made for TV.
That's what we were saying when we were watching it.
So-
Totally.
The
Fake.
show only lasted 3 seasons. For
Fake TV is what it is.
Yeah, it was
a
fake.
lot of it.
Yeah.
So
It's a strong world moving there, boy.
now, I told you about my Barbie dolls I put in
Yeah,
their room.
yeah.
Okay, Doris is a church lady.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I call hell. I was in there one night with a spirit box, you know, and I was taking the money off of the girls and putting in the pocket and bringing it down. And all of a sudden through the spirit box I heard, "That's nasty." I said, "Well, now, Doris," I said, "I couldn't even get some guys to even come in your room. They're scared to death of your dolls." And I said, "At least this way they think it's funny and they come in to see you."
Yeah.
She, "Well, whatever you have to do, but that's still nasty." So, yes, ma'am. You okay? Whatever you think. I think it's funny myself.
Before you take off, 'cause I won't be able to go with you, but is there something that we should be aware of? I should be that that's in here that it might shock us a little bit more? Like no, okay, all right. That's
Nope.
the issue.
Like there is an old judge here. It came here in 1939. I'm sorry. And he's responsible for the jail up on the second floor. There is a jail cell on the men's side up on the second floor, a real one. Okay, the judge is asked, "What would you like to do to help us here?" Everybody's asked that. Well, they're not going to have the judge shovel hog shit in the barn. Not a judge. All right, and he really doesn't deserve to live here because most judges are retired lawyers, so they got money. Okay, he doesn't. Why would he qualify to live in a poor barn? But he knows all the county commissioners. So he went to the county commissioners and he said, "Listen, my family is all gone. I have nobody left alive." He said, "I've been a social person all my life. Why don't you let me live out there so I can be with them folks that's out there and I'll pay you rent." Well, he's the first one that's offered him money. And so the county commissioners take it. Okay, so they let him come out here and pay him rent. And he lives in the first room on the men's side on the second floor. All right, he's paying rent. All right, he is asked, just like everybody else, "What would you like to do to help us here? Lord knows we need your help." Well, he doesn't know what he's going to do. He's not a farmer. He doesn't know anything about planting corn, beans, and wheat and taking care of the gardens. Or he doesn't know anything. Feeding livestock. He doesn't know anything. So they asked him. They said, "Since it's something you've probably done, would you mind taking charge of security?" Well, sure. And so the judge is here. He's in charge of security. Okay. Now, what kind of security you gonna have to have here? None. Very little. Except there's no air conditioning or nothing else. Everybody's doors to their rooms are wide open. You can walk down the hall and look in a person's room, see right away there's nobody there, and see $100 bill laying up on top of the dresser. Walk in, put it in your pocket, walk out. And if somebody sees you coming out of that room, who they going to turn you into? The judge. Now, the judge has permission. He doesn't have no legal rights, but he has permission from the caretaker to go up in the attic and have mock trials. And the people that live here, he's going to use as your jury. So in other words, these people you live with every day, eat your meals with, work with every day, that's your jury. It's just like not being here at all. It's just like everybody else, you know. That's your jury. Well, when a judge first came here, he was aware of what Hitler was doing in Europe. And he knew full well that the United States was going to be involved in another major war, World War II. And so he told the caretaker that the United States is going to be involved in a big major war coming up pretty soon, obviously. Naturally, the people of the United States didn't want to be, but the government did. And so the judge took the caretaker to Winchester, to the Randolph County Jail in Winchester, and they bought a jail cell off the county. Took it apart, brought it back out here, and put it up there on the second floor, in a room up there on the second floor. And put a jail cell, and it's a good one. It's a good one. I mean, it's a good one. And now he's in charge of mock trials in the attic. So in other words, if your jury finds you guilty, everybody in this building is going to know why you're in that jail cell and who you are. Everybody in this building is going to know why you're in jail and who you are. And so the petty crime goes down to nothing. Actually, it's a good idea putting him in charge of security. It really was. Everybody in this building, nobody in this building is going to trust you anymore. And you got to live with them every day. Nobody's going to trust you. You can see where it would work out. It'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
It'd be a good idea. Well, you know why he put the jail cell up there to begin with? He told the caretaker, he said, when we get involved in a war, you're going to have some guys out here you're not going to like. He's talking about draft doctors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And most of the guys that didn't get drafted, didn't qualify for the draft in World War II were alkies. And that was the only reason why they turned them down for the draft. The only reason. You know that as well as I do.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Okay. And so these alkies probably didn't have a job to come to. They just got turned down by the Army and the Marines at a time of war. Their country doesn't even want them. They get sent home. This place legally had to accept them. And they were thugs. They were thugs. There were 4 of them, 4 in particular, that came back here. The Army and Marines had turned them down. They're back here. And the first thing they did was going to take over this building, the thugs. And so the first thing they did was got together and formed a little coalition, you know. They're going to take over the building and run the building. So about the first week they were here, they all 4 got together one night, went over on the ladies' side and pulled off and got away with a gang rape.
Oh, that's horrible.
The ladies were terrified of them. They wouldn't turn them in. They wouldn't rat them out. They were scared to death of them. And so there's this one old boy called John Oliver Champ that lived next door to the judge upstairs in an upstairs room up there. He's 86 years old. John Oliver had real long snow white hair. He pulled back into a ponytail, and he had a great big old long handlebar snow white mustache. He was a cool looking old dude. I've seen his pictures. I like him. I really like him. He reminds you out of being out of the old West, you know. Well, he didn't like the thugs at all. He told them, by God, if I catch you, I'll rat you out. I'll testify against you. Well, the thugs didn't like him either, especially since he lived next door to the thug, to the judge. They thought he was a brown nose. And so they decided they'd get him. So one day in 1945, they had a fall clean out day out here where everybody cleans out their room, dust, sweeps the floor, washes the window on the inside and out, and they're great big windows, washes the windows on the inside and out. Well, this is on the second floor on the men's side. John Oliver's 86. He's not going up an extension ladder. I'm 76, 75, and I'm not going up one. I'll fall off of that. It's hard telling what I'd break. Probably me, completely. So I'm not going up one. But he decided he wouldn't either. So he cleans out his room and everything, and he gets a chair, and he stands on the inside of his window on a chair and washes the inside of the window. So he can at least make an attempt at it. He gets down off his chair, he opens the bottom part of the window up halfway, turns around, sits down backwards in the windowsill. So he's about half of him's outside, his legs are still inside. He pulls the inside window down on his legs to hold him in place. And he's reaching up as high as he can reach outside to do the outside. Two, remember I said the doors are all wide open? There's no air conditioning. Two of them thugs are walking down the hall, and they see him sitting backwards in that window. They said, well, this'll be easy. This'll look like an accident. So they run into his room, throw open his window, grab his legs, and dump him over backwards outside the second story window. And he lands on the back of his head backwards and breaks his neck. It killed him. It killed him. Well, John Oliver's still here too. In that room upstairs that he got shoved out the window. Now, have you got anything you can play any music on?
I actually saved some Hank Williams Sr. for him.
Well, he loves Hank Williams Sr.
Mm-hmm.
He loves Hank Williams Sr. Don't screw up like I did.
Uh-oh, what'd you give him?
Don't go in there and ask him. Don't say, John Al, let's put on a little Pink Floyd or roll up a big old doobie and go to the dark side of the moon. Don't do that. He went zip. He's gone. Don't do that.
So,
He don't like AC/DC either,
no, you don't
but
like the rock, okay.
No, how are we doing that?
How did they determine these two guys did this and it wasn't an accident? Did
They
somebody
seen
see it?
the caretaker was coming from the barn, walking back to the building to get dinner,
Okay.
and he seen him fall out the window.
And they saw the guys in there.
And he saw two guys standing up there in his room, looking out the window, making sure he was dead.
I got you.
And so the caretaker went running in the house to confront him. By the time he got up there, them guys were gone.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that on that second floor there wasn't probably a dozen people didn't see who just ran down the hall as fast as they could
But they
run.
wouldn't turn them in.
But they won't turn them in.
Jeez.
So the caretaker was smart enough to at least call the sheriff. Because he's seen somebody up there in that room. And he called the sheriff. And he had a pretty good idea it was one of the thugs. There's all four of them, you know. And the sheriff got to hammering them, got to grilling them pretty good. And one of the guys panicked and gave in.
Gotcha.
Okay. Now, they didn't get off scot-free. Keep in mind, it's 1945. There's telephones and cars and stuff in 1945. The county commissioners called East Haven down at Richmond. It's the Indiana State Mental Institution down at Richmond, Indiana, 25 miles south of here, and had them transferred from here to East Haven. They spent the rest of their lives in straitjackets and padded jail cells. So they got exactly what was coming to them. Only I'd have shoved them out a window. I know what I'd have done. I'd have shoved them backwards out a window.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Well, you already want to take a walk?
Yep. I'm ready.